on? Okay, everybody, we're going to jump back to the key points from chapter 8 because we hadn't read that yet. I'm going to read the key points of chapter 8, chapter 9, and then we're going to read chapter 10 tonight. We're trying to get this all done, chapter 10, because chapter 11 we start going into a different zone. We're just going deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's why I don't mind repeating a little bit of the summation of those two previous chapters before we read tonight's chapter so that it's more of a flow. And probably when we go back after our trip and we come back, I'll probably start, before we even go into chapter 11, I'm going to read Emerging from the Earth, chapter, 14? And, or pardon me, chapter 15, and read the orally transmitted teachings on that as well. So next time we won't really even start with this. We'll start with the Lotus Sutra and the OTT for chapter 15, Emerging from the Earth. All right, starting out right now. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, page 78. Key points, chapter 8. A spirit of harmony. Nichiren Daishonin says that his followers should become... I really should wait for those two. It's important that they remind them that I'm saying this.
Okay.
Nichiren Daishonin says that his followers should become as inseparable as fish in the water in which they swim. This indicates a spirit of harmony and unity. It also implies a spirit of mutual respect, understanding, support, and caring regardless of superficial differences in circumstances or position. Simply put, it means getting along together. No one assuming a position of superiority or inferiority, all right? When we work together for the same great objective of Kosen Rufu based on the spirit of mentor and disciple, mentor being Nichiren Daishonin, disciple being all the rest of us that are bodhisattvas of the earth, inspiring, encouraging, and supporting one another, we will naturally come into rapport and strive to maintain positive, respectful relations. So when that doesn't happen or that isn't happening, might be an indication that somebody's not doing what that previous paragraph just said. A shared commitment for Kosen Rufu. The spirit of many in body but one in mind, in a sense, represents the ultimate manifestation of the strategy of the Lotus Sutra, which is chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon, specifically chanting with a shared commitment for Kosen Rufu. No plans or strategies for Kosen Rufu will succeed without such shared commitment in chanting. What did that just say? Was the key to Kosen Rufu the unity of going to a lot of meetings with a lot of other Soka Gakkai members? No, he specifically says he says, even uses the word specifically. I'll read it again. A shared commitment of Kosen Rufu for Kosen Rufu, because this is what determines whether or not you're actually a bodhisattva of the earth or you're just a wannabe. To be very candid with you, bodhisattvas of the earth all practice for the sake of the law. They all practice for the sake of the enlightenment of all others. They chant for Kosen Rufu. They practice for Kosen Rufu. They're not in it for themselves. They've gone beyond that shit. They see beyond the delusion of just me.
Yes.
Okay? So he's saying a shared commitment for Kosen Rufu. This is key. All right? Without this shared commitment, if you really, it's happy talk, you can think about it, but if you don't do it, you're just as bad as somebody that doesn't even think of it. A shared commitment for Kosen Rufu. The spirit of many in body, but one in mind, Itai Doshin, in a sense represents the ultimate manifestation of the strategy of the Lotus Sutra, right? That's what we're talking about here, which is chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon. Specifically chanting with a shared commitment for Kosen Rufu. No plans or strategies for Kosen Rufu will succeed. None will succeed without such shared commitment in chanting. So if you have a circumstance where nobody chants together anymore, or they're not allowed to chant together anymore, or there's no place for people to chant together anymore, how can this occur? Just got to ask the question, and then you're not supposed to get together with one another to do it? Sounds kind of strange and a little bit in opposition to what President Keita's guidance is here. All right? No plans or strategies for Kosen Rufu will succeed without such shared commitment in chanting. Chanting for Kosen Rufu. Chanting for widespread propagation. Chanting for you to be able to fulfill your mission as a Bodhisattva of the earth. That's what you start with every morning. That's what you go to bed with every night. Strong practice based on such unity will also give rise to tremendous momentum. So even should there appear individuals who seek to disrupt the unity of our movement, their negative influence will be rebuffed by everyone's focused spirit. We don't dwell on teams. We don't dwell on difficulties or the arising of things that break the harmony. We focus. It's no different than fundamental darkness. How do you get rid of fundamental darkness?
Chant.
Of course. That's the answer for everything.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of fundamental darkness?
Strengthen your Buddha nature.
Yeah, but what does that do? How does that get rid of it?
Chanting.
Be able to identify.
You can never get rid of your fundamental darkness. This is the point. You make your fundamental darkness so squeezed down in the sphere of your life because you're expanding and expanding and expanding. Gompon no homyo instead of Gompon no mumyo. Do you understand? That's the difference. You know, that's the whole point. No plans or strategies for Kosen Rufu will succeed without such shared commitment in chanting. Strong practice based on such unity will also give rise to tremendous momentum. So even should there appear individuals who seek to disrupt the unity of our movement, their negative influence will be rebuffed by everyone's focused spirits. Everyone's Gompon no Hosho, whatever I said a minute again. Hosho, I believe it is. Gompon no Mumyo, Gompon no. Whatever. Gompon no Mumyo is fundamental darkness. Gompon no Hosho, I'm not sure. At any rate. One in mind, going to the top of page 78, second column, or shared commitment also refers to the great vow for Kosen Rufu. That's what you do as a Bodhisattva of the earth, right? The great vow of the Buddha who seeks to lead all people to enlightenment, and also the great vow of the mentor. One in mind means making this great vow our own and working toward its actualization. The essence of this shared commitment can be found in chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, inspired by the wish for Kosen Rufu, and this unity in chanting pulses vitally in the Soka Gakkai, or it's supposed to, according to Daisaku Ikeda. This should be your goal as a member of the Soka Gakkai then, right? Bodhisattva, respect one's fellow members. Bodhisattva, never disparaging, undertook the practice of bowing in reverence to all those he encountered, based on his belief that everyone has a Buddha nature and can attain enlightenment through faith in the Lotus Sutra. So you certainly shouldn't be excluding anyone in your thinking. He also bowed in respect to those who did not uphold the sutra, because he knew they had the potential for Buddhahood in their life, and whether they understood it or not, he would be slandering a Buddha if he slandered them. Okay, this is the ultimate teaching. It goes without saying that our fellow members who embrace the Gohonzon and strive for Kosen Rufu will all definitely attain Buddhahood, and we should therefore accord them the utmost respect. As the encouragements of the Bodhisattva Universal Worthy, the 28th chapter of the Lotus Sutra says regarding those who embrace its teachings, you should rise and greet them from afar, showing him the same respect you would a Buddha. Everybody's with me? Okay, that was the recap of 8. So let's go on to page 94. Recap for 9. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, you're all with me on page 94?
Yeah.
Okay. A summary of the key points from President Ikeda's, SGI President Ikeda's lecture. The shared commitment of mentor and disciple forms the essence of Buddhist practice. Okay? So what is the essence of Buddhist practice? Is it the desire for personal benefit?
No.
No, it's the shared commitment of the mentor and the disciple to achieve widespread propagation. And the only way that can be done is everybody expressing their Buddha nature in their present form. Okay? It can't be done theoretically. It can only be achieved if it's actually. There have got to be enough Buddhas to teach everybody else for the exponentiality to occur. Do you understand? So you've all got to attain Buddhahood. You all will. You all shall attain Buddhahood. You all absolutely will attain Buddhahood, according to Daisaku Ikeda, and I agree with him. All right? Okay. The shared commitment of mentor and disciple forms the essence of Buddhist practice. The great vow of the mentor, Nichiren, for the enlightenment of all people and the happiness of self and others is the vow or wish for Kosen Rufu. This is the spirit of the Lotus Sutra. All right? Nichiren compares his disciple Sairinbo to pure gold because he maintained pure faith and dedication even in the face of persecution. Sairinbo emulated the model set by his mentor Nichiren in remaining unperturbed by harsh opposition. Those who lack solid guiding principles are easily swayed in times of adversity, while those with a firm grounding in faith and wisdom can face and withstand any hardship. Okay, so when there is this conflict, there will be a winner and there will be a loser. Okay, because it's really there to express who is correct. What's the faith? What's the correct faith? Correct faith will always win. Yeah. Incorrect faith will always lose. It's a matter of causality. It's not rocket science. Those who lack solid guiding principles, such as really understanding what President Ikeda is talking about in the Gosho, are easily swayed in times of adversity, while those with a firm grounding in faith and wisdom can face and withstand any hardship. That's President Toda, President Makaguchi, President Ikeda. Those that have supported them to create this wonderful thing called the 15 million member Soka Gakkai. Because of the strength of the mentor and disciples' shared vow for Kosen Rufu, they can triumph over severe obstacles that arise when fighting for the enlightenment of all people. They can actually achieve widespread propagation. Kosen Rufu, as it's been described by Nichiren, and it's actually predicted in the Lotus Sutra. I don't feel tired anymore. Pardon me. Shakyamuni, awakened to the mystic law, endeavored to teach his disciples the truth to which he'd become enlightened. Theoretical explanations of the law are insufficient to overcome the fundamental darkness that clouds people's understanding of their own Buddha nature. The disciple had to observe, become inspired by, and emulate the Buddha's behavior. And when their observation was supported by Shakyamuni's instruction, the disciples were awakened. When disciples failed to share Shakyamuni's vow and failed to emulate his behavior as a human being, they began to treat him as a god. This represented a breakdown in the mentor and disciple relationship, causing the decline of Buddhism. If Shakyamuni had attained enlightenment as a superhuman being, there would be no way for ordinary people to emulate his conduct or to attain the state he attained. The deification of a Buddha reduces that Buddha to an external object of veneration and does not enable the disciples to reach their true potential. The Lotus Sutra describes the vow of the Buddha as follows. At the start, I took a vow, hoping to make all persons equal to me without any distinction between us. The great vow for the happiness of all people requires unhesitating willingness to dedicate one's life, as Nichiren did. He fulfilled his vow in the latter day of the law and established the practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to enable people to reveal their innate Buddhahood. While other Buddhist schools viewed their heritage as being passed on through elaborate formalities or secret rituals, the heritage of Nichiren Buddhism exists in the shared vow and action of mentor and disciple and is open to all people. Through the actions of the three founding Soka Gakkai presidents, the SGI continues in the shared commitment of mentor and disciple, spreading Nam-myoho Renge-kyo throughout the globe. Could I get a couple of tissues there real quick? Thank you. Got a little emotional. Sorry. We were having a great conversation before the cameras came on. Okay. Starting this week's conversation, chapter 10, page 97 the cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth. Who are the bodhisattvas of the earth? We can generally say that, but what determines us actually being able to be counted among them? How long do we chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo?
Until the last moment of your
To
life.
the last moment of our life.
Yeah.
Bodhisattvas of the earth never go Taitan in any lifetime. They are the original disciples of the original teacher. Okay? So, the practice of the Buddha's true disciples. So that's the key to why he says the Buddha's true disciples. Okay? To awaken all people to the power of the mystic law inherent in their life. And why can they do that as bodhisattvas of the earth? As bodhisattvas of the earth. Not as, of course they're Buddhists. We've already qualified that. The OTT makes that very clear. These are actually Buddhas that relinquished their august form in order to appear for the sake of propagating the law. Okay? But why are they able to do that?
Because of their relationship with.
They're actually extensions of the law. Their purpose is propagation of the law. There's no distinction between them and the original teacher or the original state or the original Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, right? Okay, so revitalizing on page 97, revitalizing all people from the very depths of their lives, changing the world into a true realm of happiness and peace. These are the fundamental objectives of the Lotus Sutra. And those who strive throughout their lives with a personal commitment to realize these goals are bodhisattvas of the earth. And that personal commitment is why they can never go Taitan. That's why they last all the way to the last moment. It's not because that was easy to do. That was hard as shit to do. Trust me. All right? In the defiled age of the latter day, but they cannot fail. They know they cannot fail. That's why they never fail. They don't have that as an option. Their faith won't allow them to deviate from the Master's direction. In the defiled age of the latter day of the law, the bodhisattvas of the earth impart the light of hope to those who are suffering, tirelessly reaching out to each individual with compassion and courage until fresh life force wells forth. With an unwavering belief in the potential for good that resides in each person, they persevere in conducting sincere dialogue and never cease in their efforts to awaken others' Buddha nature. Because the bodhisattvas of the earth themselves embody the power of the mystic law, they are able to press on tenaciously with their noble work amid the great sea of humanity and, through the brilliance of their character and integrity, awaken the Buddha nature of others, as Buddhas do, which is why they're really Buddhas. The Lotus Sutra proclaims that countless such genuine practitioners, he doesn't say countless such practitioners. He qualifies once again. The genuine one is one that's a true one. Okay, he's making this distinction over and over again so that we don't get sucked into the, if I chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, I'm a bodhisattva. If I'm an SGI member, I'm a bodhisattva. No, your actions as a member and your actions by chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo create the distinction of whether or not you actually qualify for that title. The Lotus Sutra proclaims that countless such genuine practitioners are sure to appear in the latter day of the law. The bodhisattvas of the earth, continuing on page 98, are experts in the art of life who help people transform themselves on the most fundamental level and gain true inner happiness. Their wisdom and actions are based on the profound philosophy that both they and others possess the Buddha nature. This belief enables them to overcome self-centeredness and negative karma and bring the power of compassion inherent in the universe to flow forth abundantly. This is the source of their shining and infinitely inspiring character, as well as their unceasing efforts to lead others to enlightenment. So what's the source of their power?
Their faith.
Yeah, but faith in what? Just read it. Okay, because this is really important, because I don't want to micromanage every paragraph here, but listen carefully to what I'm saying. The words matter. The Bodhisattvas of the earth, page 98, are experts in the art of life who help people transform themselves on the most fundamental level and gain true inner happiness. They light the fuse to those individuals' Buddhahood. Okay, regardless of what happens through the course of them for the rest of their life in this lifetime, they will continue to meet the law and practice and eventually attain Buddhahood in their present form. Okay, so that's what that's talking about. Their wisdom, these bodhisattvas of the earth that are actually bodhisattvas of the earth, their wisdom and actions are based on the profound philosophy that both they and others possess the Buddha nature. So where do they get their powers, their action, their wisdom?
Profound philosophy.
Right.
They know that they possess the Buddha nature.
Right. But what is the source of their power? It's not only, it's understanding that they are Buddhas, but also understanding everyone else is too. Never seeing it as like, I'm the Buddha now. I know more than all you. I can tell you shit you've never heard of before. That isn't what the Buddha is. Right? Their wisdom and actions are based on the profound philosophy that both they and others possess the Buddha nature. This belief enables them to overcome self-centeredness and negative karma. That was the reason they were able to actually manifest Buddhahood in their present form and bring the power of compassion. What good is compassion? What's the power of compassion? What good is compassion?
We know wisdom.
Wisdom, baby. All right? And bring the power of compassion, the power of wisdom inherent in the universe to flow forth abundantly in their own lives. This is the source of their shining and infinitely inspiring character, as well as their unceasing efforts to lead others to enlightenment. And who do they lead to enlightenment?
More bodhisattvas.
And that they have a relationship with, that they specifically have a personal karmic tie to. That's why they have to do what they have to do, because they've already promised to lead others that are going to follow them, listen to them, and transform their own lives on the same basis, watching and using them as the example that it can be done. They're the living example of the teaching being real and not being theoretical. Okay? Sorry, it's hard. This is the true reason, Daisaku Ikeda says, see how that's a big fat star? This is the true reason for the transmission of the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death, to enable all people to attain Buddhahood. If someone misses this key point, then however much they might read the Lotus Sutra or study or think they know what this Gosho says,
They miss the point.
they effectively shut themselves off from the heritage of attaining Buddhahood. They're like an unlearned person trying to teach other people that are as ignorant as they are. Therefore, only when one has a deep inner awareness that one is a bodhisattva of the earth, a protagonist in the effort to enable all people to attain enlightenment, and knows that there's going to be all kinds of different missions for that to be accomplished. We come in all flavors, okay, under all sun signs, okay, and stands up with the mentor in faith to carry out this mission. Can one be said to have truly internalized the teachings of the Lotus Sutra? Only when one realizes that you're here to do Kosen Rufu. That's really it. Everything else is window dressing to that existence. That's why that existence can be such a wonderful, mind-blowing roller coaster ride, most thrilling, wonderful thing you've ever experienced. The crux of the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death can be found in the practice of mentor and disciple, demonstrated by the bodhisattvas of the earth, who are led by bodhisattva superior practices. In this and the next installment, we will look at passages in which Nichiren Daishonin discusses the profound meaning behind this. All right? So we're getting ready to jump into some stuff you really need to think about and listen to. Don't space out while I'm talking. Ask questions if what I say goes by you, please. Practice is the lifeline of Buddhism. Going to the Gosho. How admirable that you have asked about the transmission of the ultimate law of life and death. I have never heard of anyone who has asked such a question. I have answered in complete detail in this letter, so please take it deeply to heart. The important point is to carry out your practice confident that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo alone is the heritage that was transferred from Shakyamuni and many treasures to Bodhisattva superior practices. The function of fire is to burn and give light. The function of water is to wash away filth. The winds blow away dust and breathe life into plants, animals, and human beings. The earth produces the grasses and trees, and heaven provides nourishing moisture. The 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo are also like that. They are the cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity. The Lotus Sutra says that Bodhisattva superior practices will appear now in the latter day of the law to propagate this teaching. But has this happened? Whether or not Bodhisattva superior practices has appeared in this world, Nichiren has already made a start in propagating this teaching. Going on to the lecture at the top of page 100. In Buddhism, practicing the teachings based on the relationship of mentor and disciple is essential. Okay, so once again, this mentor, need a mentor, couldn't agree more personally. 46, going now into 47th year of practice. This is the key. And you will have more than one, I think. It's probable. It's almost undoubtedly you should and shall. Many bodhisattvas appear, because ultimately all things are your teacher when you're the Buddha. We just read that, remember? All right. Many bodhisattvas appear in the Lotus Sutra, right? However, only the bodhisattvas of the earth are the true disciples of Shakyamuni as he is depicted in the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago, bodhisattvas, right? There, Shakyamuni is revealed as the eternal Buddha, having attained enlightenment in the infinite past. The leader of the bodhisattvas of the earth is bodhisattva superior practices. No, you're going to. That's why next chapter is so important. That's where we're going to flip this. Okay, we're going to go from that was then, this is now, and that full explanation is very well attainable and understandable. But you got to prepare for it. All right. The Lotus Sutra was transmitted from Shakyamuni to superior practices as the representative of all the bodhisattvas of the earth, namely from the teacher embodying the eternal state of the Buddhahood to his genuine disciples, his original disciples, the teachers of the law that are actually also the lords of teaching of Mappo.
So it's Nichiren.
It's totally Nichiren, baby. That's the whole point. But if Nichiren would have come out and said, I've arrived, it's me, let's party,
So
off with the head. Would have never gotten far enough along for this to all be made clear for him. And now, why do you think Sairinbo was there? Sairinbo was there to ask these questions. This relationship predates their existence on earth. Trust me, all of these relationships pre-exist. Pardon me. Next, okay. In this passage, Nichiren specifically addresses Sairinbo's question from the standpoint of practice. He clarifies that the top of the second column.
No,
I'm way over here.
The Lotus Sutra was transmitted from...
Oh, I'm down here. Where am I now? She's over on the left-hand column, baby. I'm in the middle of this one. Okay. The ruler goes all the way across the page. Sometimes I get lost. Pardon me. I'll start with many bodhisattvas at page 100, first full paragraph. Many bodhisattvas appear in the Lotus Sutra. However, only the bodhisattvas of the earth are the true disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha as he is depicted in the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. There, Shakyamuni is revealed as the eternal Buddha, having attained enlightenment in the infinite past. The leader of the Bodhisattvas of the earth is Bodhisattva superior practices. The Lotus Sutra was transmitted from Shakyamuni to superior practices as the representative of all the Bodhisattvas of the earth, namely from the teacher embodying the eternal state of Buddhahood to his genuine disciples. In the passage above, Nichiren Daishonin begins by praising Sai Rinpo's seeking spirit, saying, "How admirable that you have asked about the transmission of the ultimate law of life and death. I have never heard of anyone who has asked such a question." Then he recommends the practice of chanting and spreading Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, stating, "The important point is to carry out your practice confident that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo alone, of which he's the only teacher of that." Okay, that didn't exist before his advent, right? So he's saying, the important point is to carry out your practice confident that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo alone is the heritage that was transferred from Shakyamuni and many treasures to Bodhisattva superior practices. Okay? Get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because do Tahoe or Shakyamuni appear in the latter day?
No.
Okay. In this passage, Nichiren specifically addresses Sai Rinpo's question from the standpoint of practice. He clarifies that the key to inheriting the ultimate law of life and death lies in spreading Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, following the example of Bodhisattva superior practices, following the example of Nichiren Daishonin, following the example of Makaguchi, Toda, and Ikeda. Nichiren underlines the necessity for disciples to practice in the same spirit as Bodhisattva superior practices, as the original teacher. That's because you're the Buddha, and you're the original Buddha. You are the Lord of teachings. Get your head around that. That's a big job, right? Next, by drawing parallels with the functions of the five elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and space, Nichiren outlines the power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Disciples manifest this power when they practice with the same dedicated spirit as Bodhisattva superior practices. These functions represent the power of compassion inherent in the universe, which was believed to be composed of the five elements. Now, again, I got to tell you, I told the story of my life a little bit a year and a half ago in that 100th video. And I talked about how I read Lectures on the Sutras by Josei Toda 3 times at the very beginning. I realized that I must be a Bodhisattva of the earth, okay? So early on for me, why did I chant for benefits? It was to always come to the meeting every week, couldn't wait to tell everybody what else this crazy life of mine was bringing me from the power of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. All I cared about was doing Shakabuku. All I cared about, that's how I have 136 or so people that I've sponsored to receive Gohonzon. Okay? This disciples manifested, next, by drawing parallels with the functions of the five elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and space, Nichiren outlines the power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Disciples manifest this power when they practice with the same dedicated spirit as Bodhisattva superior practices. It's the propagation of the law for Kosen Rufu. That's what I'm saying. If you chant for a benefit, for the sake of getting the benefit for yourself personally, I guarantee you it will take longer to receive, to create the fortune, to receive that change in your environment, to receive that benefit, than if you very purely chant to receive that benefit, to do Shakabuku, to show the power of the Gohonzon, to show the power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. If that's the reason you want to manifest benefits in your environment, there's nothing wrong with that one. That one's a powerful prayer because that's demonstration of the power of the law. You're actually validating the truth of this teaching in living your life and accomplishing that. Okay? It's important that you never stop doing that. That you continue to see my life as an example. My life is the same as Nichiren. All right? Disciples manifest this power when they practice with the same dedicated spirit as Bodhisattva superior practices. You can do it. These functions represent the power of compassion inherent in the universe, the source of your wisdom, because that's what you're being when you have that desire, that prayer, right? When you're of the same mind as for propagation as superior practices, you've got limitless compassion, right? What comes from limitless compassion?
Wisdom.
Limitless wisdom, right? Okay. The function of the 5 elements, he says, are the functions of Myoho Renge-kyo, as well as the cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity, through the wondrous workings inherent in life itself. Which is just the karma that is all things. Okay? Through the wondrous workings inherent in life itself, these bodhisattvas propagate Myoho Renge-kyo and benefit people. Nichiren goes on to allude that he himself is Bodhisattva superior practices, the first to carry out these practices and manifest the power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. By doing so, he is urging Sairinpo to practice Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with the same spirit as himself in accord with his teachings, which is what we're doing exactly. Practice, at the top of page 101, is the lifeline of Buddhism. A religion that lacks practice becomes nothing but an intellectual pastime. Nichiren indicates that in order to partake Nichiren indicates that in order to partake of the heritage for attaining Buddhahood, it is essential to practice Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the law entrusted to Bodhisattva superior practices. There is no such heritage outside of this. Okay? So it doesn't exist in the framework of the Buddhism of the harvest, right? On the basis of this point alone, it is abundantly clear just how much the Nichiren Shoshu priesthood has deviated from Nichiren Buddhism by teaching a mystical transmission of the heritage and demanding blind obedience based thereupon. And that goes for everybody, baby. Beneficial workings of the bodhisattvas of the earth and the functions of the 5 elements, middle of page 101. Just what does it mean to practice Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in accord with Nichiren Daishonin's teachings? This is Daisaku Ikeda saying this. To clarify this, Nichiren refers to the functions of the 5 elements. Let us look at them one by one. The function of fire is to burn and give light. Fire burns things and produces light which illuminates. The function of water is to wash away filth. Water cleanses and purifies. The winds blow away dust and breathe life into plants, animals, and human beings. Wind clears away dust. The additional statement that it breathes life into plants, animals, and human beings was no doubt added because wind was viewed as an animating force by the ancients. The earth produces the grasses and trees. Grasses and trees grow and thrive in the earth. This indicates the function of nurturing life. And finally, heaven provides nourishing moisture. Heaven means the sky causes rains to fall, nourishing and sustaining all things. Heaven, mentioned last, corresponds to space in the 5 elements. Nichiren here refers to the inherent functions of nature represented by the 5 elements that compose the universe. After indicating the innate value creative functions of the 5 elements, what value creation is there? The creation of all things. That's pretty complete, right? The innate value creating functions of the 5 elements, Nichiren says, the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo are also like that, the basis of all things. They are the cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity. The cluster of blessings that appears unsought. He is declaring that the functions of the 5 elements are themselves the functions of the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo, and that they constitute the blessings or the beneficial workings of the bodhisattvas of the earth, which precede the manifest earth. Yeah, they don't just go back 15 billion years. They go back to Kuan. There's no beginning. They're the 9th consciousness. They dwell in They dwell in pure Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. They're extensions of the law, karmic extensions of the law. All right, are you with me?
Yes.
All right, but only the bodhisattvas of the earth. It's happy talking unless you carry this out to the last moment of your life. So don't get too high on that banner, know that you've got to sustain and maintain it. All right? Okay. In other words, the compassionate workings inherent in the universe itself are the essence of the functions of Myoho Renge-kyo, and the bodhisattvas of the earth benefit others by means of these inherent functions of the mystic law. You with me? It's that connection. From Nichiren's words, we can conclude that the true nature of the benefit of the bodhisattvas of the earth is to enable people to substantively express in their own character and behavior the compassionate functions that are innate in life. That's why we're all different. There have got to be all kinds of different expressions for different people to be inspired by those different expressions. Why? Because they're different. That's why we're all different. We're all teachers for different people. In the record of the orally transmitted teachings, after identifying the functions of the four elements of earth, water, fire, and wind, and I'll be reading that to you before we start the next chapter. In the record of the orally transmitted teachings, after identifying the functions of the four elements of earth, water, fire, and wind, Nichiren explains that these are the blessings or beneficial workings of the four bodhisattvas who are the leaders of the bodhisattvas of the earth. Okay, and I'll just have to read it to you. According to this passage, as well as the commentary of Nichikan and other writings, when the functions of the four bodhisattvas are correlated to the four elements, superior practices corresponds to fire, pure practices to water, boundless practices to wind, and firmly established practices to earth. These functions of the four bodhisattvas are themselves the functions of Myoho Renge-kyo. Okay? So sometimes we are all four. This isn't an individual identity. Okay? This is the identity of all bodhisattvas of the earth, including the original teacher, part of that crew. You get it? We all achieve the same state as he has, right? He's not hanging out in a superior space. Do you understand? All right, so the mystic law, everybody's with me? All right, the mystic law has the power to burn away earthly desires that give rise to suffering, to illuminate the darkness of ignorance in people's lives, and to dispel the clouds of karma. This aspect is symbolized by Bodhisattva superior practices. The mystic law also has the power to bring forth the pure life state, of Buddhahood, unsullied by the evils and impurities of the world. So what's that then? That's the ninth consciousness. Okay, so mystic law also has the power to bring forth the pure life state of Buddhahood, the ninth consciousness, unsullied by the evils and impurities of the world. This is represented by Bodhisattva pure practices. Bodhisattva boundless practice symbolizes the power to sweep away all delusions and worries and establish a brilliant state of absolute freedom that is never deadlocked. Bodhisattva firmly established practices represents the power to sweep away the sufferings caused by earthly desires and eliminate the illusions of birth and death, and to nurture all things with abundant life force unperturbed by any obstacle. Now, does everybody understand? This aspect, okay, let me say it again. He's going to talk about each individual aspect. All of us have all four aspects in our lives. Okay, these are all aspects of bodhisattvas of the earth. Let me reread it again. The mystic law has the power to burn away earthly desires and give rise to suffering. That gives rise to suffering, to eliminate the darkness of ignorance in people's lives, and to dispel the clouds of karma. To simultaneity of cause and effect change their karma, right? In a single moment of life, you can eradicate all the karmic defilement that you've accumulated to that point. That's the teaching, right? That's what he's talking about, dispel the clouds of karma. This aspect is symbolized, this ability to do these transformative workings is symbolized by Bodhisattva superior practices. Symbolized. Because when you function as a bodhisattva of the earth, you also have that capacity within your life to do everything that I just said there. Because you're propagating the original teaching of the original teacher. How could you not have his original capacity? You wouldn't have the ability to teach it then, would you? So you couldn't really call them the teachers of the law. Right? Okay. This aspect is symbolized by Bodhisattva's superior practices. The mystic law also has the power to bring forth the pure life state of Buddhahood, unsullied by the evils and impurities of the world. This is represented by Bodhisattva pure practices. Bodhisattva boundless practices symbolizes the power to sweep away all delusions and worries and establish a brilliant state of life of absolute freedom that is never deadlocked. Bodhisattva firmly established practices represents the power to sweep away the sufferings caused by earthly desires and eliminate the illusions of birth and death, and to nurture all things with abundant life force, unperturbed by any obstacle. Okay? But as we go along and we talk about this, what's the basis of the transformative power of the Daimoku that you chant to the Gohonzon? Your life itself. Okay? It's not floating in from Venus or somewhere else, and it's not emanating originally from the piece of paper that you're chanting Daimoku to. That is what you're chanting Daimoku to as a mirror. Right? That's superior practices. Right? Now, he's saying that it also has the power to bring forth the pure life state of Buddhahood. That absolutely is part of the deal. We also bring that forth. Who brings that forth?
Yes,
We do. There's no God, there's nobody doing for that for us. When we're bodhisattvas of the earth, bringing forth Buddhahood in our life, in our present form, it's our power of our life that accomplished that. Nobody else's. We got a lot of help, other bodhisattvas, other teachers, but the power and the influence to accomplish what we accomplish comes from us. This is represented by pure practices. Why? Because we've taken on the practice of the original teacher in order to teach the original practice correctly to others. If we don't go through this process or need to go through this process, how can we share it with others? We really can't. Okay? We'll have no fundamental understanding of why it's difficult, why it's lacking, what's necessary. Okay? Bodhisattva boundless practices symbolizes the power to sweep away all delusions and worries and establish a brilliant state of absolute freedom that is never deadlocked. What's that describe?
wisdom.
Your ability to go forward through the bullshit that will definitely be there along the path. And beat it. And never be deadlocked by it. Okay? To be the constant inspiration to everybody else that is deadlocked, but not me. Why aren't you ever deadlocked? Maybe it's because I'm following the correct teacher's teaching. All right? Bodhisattva's firmly established practices represents the power to sweep away the sufferings caused by earthly desires and eliminate the illusions of birth and death, and to nurture all things with abundant life force, unperturbed by any obstacle. That means that no matter what, you never stop breathing this life that was just represented by the virtues of the Bodhisattvas of the earth into others to help them awaken to the reality that they are also Bodhisattvas of the earth. Completely equal to you in every single way, even though you have the wisdom and the power to manifest all the shit that I just said there. Do you understand? All the stuff that I just said there. You with me? All right, so therefore, Nichiren, citing a passage from Tao Shen's supplement to the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, correlates the four bodhisattvas with the four virtues of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity. Thus, the practice of the four bodhisattvas, the universal practice of the bodhisattvas of the earth, transcend the four sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and manifest the four virtues of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity. They transcend it. You become a Buddha in your present form. That's the transcending part of it. After citing the supplement to the words and phrases, Nichiren describes the life state embodied in each of the names of the four bodhisattvas. When all these spiritual characteristics or enlightened attributes are combined, they comprise an unsurpassed state of being in which the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana and earthly desires are enlightenment. For reference, I'd like to discuss this particular passage from the supplement to the words and phrases indicating the four bodhisattvas' relationship to birth and death. There are times, this is going right back to what I'll be reading next week, or next time we have a video. There are times when a person possesses all four of these principles, namely the four virtues of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity. To transcend the two types of birth and death in the six paths and birth and death in the higher realms, and we'll get to that explanation in a minute, is known as superior practices. To go beyond the two opposing views that life is cut off after one existence or that it is eternally the same is called boundless practices. Because one overcomes the five categories of illusion and entanglements, that state is designated pure practices. and because one is as perfect in virtue as the Buddha who attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, that state is named firmly established practices. Two types of death here specifically refers to the transmigration with differences and limitations that living beings in the six paths undergo, and the transmigration with change and advance that people of the two vehicles, voice hearers and cause awakened ones, and bodhisattvas undergo. Transcending the two types of birth and death means moving beyond these two forms of transmigration and instead repeating the cycle of birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood. We're all clear on what that is from what we've already studied preceding this, right? You understand the first six, the next three, and the last one. We endeavor, if we do this and we validate ourselves as bodhisattvas of the earth, we don't have to worry. We always remanifest in birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood. That's the goal. All right? That's the ninth consciousness finish line, which we have already discussed at length earlier in this series. Okay? You're with me, right? Put another way, this is the state of life in which both life and death are filled with joy, in which one undergoes the cycle of birth and death with a real and profound sense of life's identity as a bodhisattva of the earth. The bodhisattvas of the earth can reside in this truly autonomous state of life because they live in accord with the eternal mystic law. Now, what did that just say? The bodhisattvas of the earth can reside in this truly autonomous state of life. What does that mean? Truly autonomous. They're completely free. They have nothing ruling them. They're already part of what rules everything. They're inherently a part of what rules everything. There is no separation between them and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo anywhere in the 10 directions, anywhere in the threefold existence. Okay? So in any circumstance, all right, they are autonomous because they are Buddhas. All right, next, to go beyond the two opposing views indicates a state of life that is free of attachment to life or fear of death, transcending the mistaken view of existence characterized by the views of annihilation and permanence. Overcoming the 5 categories of illusions and entanglements means freeing oneself of the 5 types of abiding earthly desires that cause living beings in the threefold world to become attached to life, and being as perfect in virtue as the Buddha who attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree means basing oneself on the complete and perfect life state of the Buddha's enlightenment, which is eternal. It's not for a lifetime. Right? In short, these characteristics express the transformative functions within people's own lives. Everybody has this transformative function and has the capacity to utilize it. But you have to use Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to get there, which underlie the principles of earthly desires or enlightenment, because life equals the opportunity to attain that, and the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana, because life, which is the sufferings of birth and death, earthly desires are enlightenment, and sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. Again, those sufferings are also life, which allows for Buddhahood. Indeed, the word practices in the name of the 4 bodhisattvas alludes to efforts that are directed toward inner transformation, because your inner transformation is what allows other people to see that inner transformation is a real thing, it's not a theoretical thing, and that they too can emulate it and utilize it. The life state of Bodhisattva Buddhas. So here's the hyphenated thing where I said Bodhisattvas of the earth are really Buddhas, right? You do all understand that. All right? In the page 104, they just revealed their Buddhahood as part of their Bodhisattva of the earthness. Okay? It takes a while. The heritage of the ultimate law of life, in the heritage of the ultimate law of life, Nichiren refers to the cluster of blessings brought by the Bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity, from WND 1, page 2818. Okay? So this cluster of blessings, this heritage of the ultimate law, is not just delivered by the number one guy. We're the actual deliverers. He was the announcement. There's a package on the door. We're the ones that ring the doorbell until it's open, push our way in and present it and open it and tell all about it. Okay? Convince people it's real. There's not a burglar out there that's trying to get into your house or something. I don't know. The heritage of the ultimate law of life, in the heritage of the ultimate law of life, Nietzsche refers to the cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity. Disciples of the Buddha in his true identity means disciples instructed by Shakyamuni as the Buddha enlightened since the remote past described in the lifespan of the Thus Come One chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Because we don't want to be in conflict with the sutra itself, right? Because the bodhisattvas of the earth possess as their inner enlightenment the eternal mystic law that goes back farther than numberless major world system dust particle kalpas, okay? The eternal mystic law that is one with that Buddha, they can stand up alone and propagate that law in the evil age after Shakyamuni's passing. Okay? So without the interpretation of Nichiren or the advent of Nichiren or the principles of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and everything that ties together from all those extraneous teachings of Shakyamuni, the essential teaching could never have been made, could have never, it's not manifest. He'll say later, you know, it's inherent in. There had to be somebody that qualified what this inherent teaching was. Would it make sense that a subordinate teacher be the one to make that declaration of truth that affects all things after that, specifically? Not really. Okay? Why is it that Shakyamuni only teaches his own disciples and they're only in the former and the middle day? Because they're not bodhisattvas of the earth. Sorry. Okay, they're cause awakened ones and voice hearers that have realized their true identity as bodhisattvas. They don't realize themselves as Buddhas. Buddhists are still in the former and the middle day. Up until the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutra, they're transcendent. They're gods. You get it? Okay, so let me continue instead of stopping. The Lotus Sutra explains that the bodhisattvas of the earth are bodhisattvas who have emerged from the world of truth, that ninth consciousness that lies in the lower regions of the earth, wherever that is.
Beneath.
Huh?
In the lower region beneath the earth.
What did I say? In the lower region beneath the earth. Beneath the earth. Okay? The great teacher Tentai says this world of truth means the depths of the Dharma nature, not a place. Okay? They're not hanging out in a Buddha land in that way. Okay? This is the Buddha land. That's the whole point. All right? The depths of the Dharma nature, Tentai, the great teacher Tentai says this world of truth means the depths of the Dharma nature, the ultimate region of the profound source, indicating that the bodhisattvas of the earth are enlightened to the ultimate truth. Nevertheless, these bodhisattvas persist in carrying out bodhisattva practice. That is, they continually strive in an evil age to transform their own lives and the lives of others with the goal of achieving Kosen Rufu, widespread propagation. But in terms of their inner enlightenment, they already possess the life state of Buddhahood that is awakened to the mystic law. That's why they are who they are. As such, they could be called Bodhisattva Buddhas. Nichiren revealed and spread Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in order to make it possible for all people to achieve this state of life. That's why he's the superior practices, right? That's why he's the leader of the bodhisattvas of the earth. Okay? He's the originator of the teaching. Actually, he may say that the source is inherent, but it didn't come out of anybody else's mouth until him. All right? And that got by Myolo and Tentai and a bunch of other very capable people. Although they all contributed to that understanding being able to be represented by what was actually the literal translation of the Lotus Sutra. Do you follow? Without Tentai saying, well, I think this 10 factors really includes 10 worlds and there's 3,000 realms. That wasn't there. Okay? Myolo's clarifications weren't there. Dingyo's clarifications weren't there. These were all component realities that had to precede Nichiren's advent. Okay? Okay. As such, they could be called Bodhisattva Buddhas. Nichiren revealed and spread Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in order to make it possible for all people to achieve this state of life. By deeply believing in Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, that's doubt-free faith, and practicing exactly as Nichiren teaches, which is what we should be striving to do, any person can attain the life state of a Bodhisattva Buddha. All right? And they may even be able to make it to Buddhahood in their present form. Okay? But they're already, once they've done that, they're there. Nichiren states, thus we may say that the bodhisattvas who emerge from the earth are the bodhisattvas of the essential teaching. The word essential or original represents the merits, blessings handed down from the past of numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago. The merits, blessings that are without beginning and without end. That's why we get so much benefit from chanting in the correct way, and why sometimes we don't get so much benefit when we don't chant in the correct way. These bodhisattvas are possessors of the essential or original law. So that means that nothing precedes that, right? The original law is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nichiren says in the orally transmitted teachings. The bodhisattva, so there's that's the original law that precedes the Lotus Sutra. Do you understand? The bodhisattvas of the earth who practice Nam-myoho Renge-kyo already possess the mystic law. Since that is the case, they can propagate the mystic law through one-on-one, life-to-life interaction, reaching out to the Buddha nature of others with their own Buddhahood. No matter what karma others may be struggling with, one can only really lead them to enlightenment by awakening them to the fact that the power to break through that karma already exists within their own lives. They're the source of all that power. Only bodhisattvas of the earth, possessing the essential or original law, are able to bring about this awakening. It's happy talk unless there's somebody doing it. In the latter day of the law, there is utterly no possibility that salvation will come from above. That is to say, by the grace of a transcendent Buddha who descends from the heavens. People can only become aware of the infinite power existing within their own lives by encountering bodhisattvas of the earth who have emerged from the lower region, that is the world of truth, in other words, from below, not from above. 107. A gathering of the bodhisattvas of the earth. The Soka Gakkai has revived this bodhisattva practice in the modern age through its practice of Nichiren Buddhism. Soka Gakkai founding president Tsunesaburo Makaguchi once remarked, we must clearly distinguish between believers and practitioners. While there is no dispute about the fact that someone who believes in the mystic law will have their prayers answered and realize benefit, this alone does not constitute bodhisattva practice. There is no such thing as a self-centered Buddha who simply accumulates personal benefit and does not work for the well-being of others. Unless we carry out bodhisattva practice, we cannot attain Buddhahood. Mr. Makaguchi understood that bodhisattva practice is the heart of Nichiren Buddhism. And that's why he started doing what he was doing, even though Nichiren Shoshu had been in place for hundreds of years. And he embodied it in his own actions. This practice was missing from Nichiren Shoshu, the Nichiren Shoshu priesthood of the day. Mr. Makaguchi recognized that the power of Buddhism can only be demonstrated through the actual proof of faith shown by practitioners in their daily lives. He also keenly perceived that Buddhist salvation was not about the Buddha saving people by means of his resplendent appearance, but rather about people bringing forth their own inner potential through personally challenging themselves in bodhisattva practice and inspiring others to do the same. Mr. Makaguchi's staunch disciple, Josei Toda, who accompanied him to prison, had a spiritual awakening in his prison cell to his original identity as a bodhisattva of the earth. After his release from prison, he went on to call forth 750,000 courageous bodhisattvas of the earth, and it is they who built the foundations of the Soka Gakkai. Indeed, the members of the Soka Gakkai alone had persevered in the practice of chanting and spreading Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with a profound awareness of their mission as bodhisattvas of the earth. As Nichiren Daishonin writes, were they not bodhisattvas of the earth, they could not chant the Daimoku from the true aspect of all phenomena. Today, countless intrepid bodhisattvas, meaning they're not discouraged, they're not defeated by anything, have emerged from the great earth of the Dharma nature in the 190 countries and territories around the world in order to realize Kosen Rufu. The emergence of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, as expounded in the Lotus Sutra, is being reenacted in the present age by none other than the SGI. Bodhisattvas of the earth are unhindered by such distinctions as nationality, culture, or race. Culture or race. In fact, our global network of Bodhisattvas of the earth is today forging deep mutual understanding and sympathy, transcending differences of ideology, creed, and religion. All people are equal and everyone is worthy of respect. When we awaken to the incredible power that lies within us, we can change our world. The solidarity of awakened people can help others realize this highest potential and thus make the world a better place. We have now entered an age when our gathering of Bodhisattvas of the earth is attracting praise far and wide. The time has come when people everywhere are correctly seeking the egalitarian and humanistic Buddhism of the people of Nichiren Daishonin. Based on the mentor-disciple spirit of the Soka, let us show the world the real power of the people that is the hallmark of the Bodhisattvas of the earth. So flipping back to the beginning of this chapter, so going back to chapter 97, or pardon me, page 97. On page 99 is the latter day of the law gray box. Let me get through these. The latter day of the law is also known as the age of decadent law or final law. Is the last of the three periods following the death of Shakyamuni Buddha. In the first period, the former day, the teaching, practice, and proof of Shakyamuni's Buddhism were present, and it is said that numerous people attained enlightenment. The second period, the middle day, is also known as the age of semblance to the law. During this time, the teachings of Shakyamuni became formalized, and the emphasis was on the meditative practices of such philosophers as Nagarjuna and Tentai. Very few people attained enlightenment. The third age, the latter day of the law, is defined in the Great Collection Sutra as an age of quarrels and disputes, in which Shakyamuni's teachings are obscured and lost. These sorts of predictions led to a deep sense of foreboding in Asian society around the time of Nichiren Daishonin, because according to the calendar at that time, they were hitting the end of the second 1,000 years, or the end of Zoho, pardon me, I shouldn't say second 1,000 years. Many Buddhist leaders responded by emphasizing teachings that this world is a place devoid of hope and to be despised, and that one should aspire for rebirth in a pure realm after death. That's when Amida and all that was the big deal. The Lotus Sutra, however, looks at the latter day as a time when the other Buddhist teachings, which were preached as expedients to lead people to awaken to the ultimate law or truth, have lost their power to save people. It is a time when this ultimate law, inherent in the essential teachings of the Lotus Sutra, what did it say there?
Will prevail.
Yeah, but not, of course, will prevail. But what did it just describe? He says, let me read that sentence again. The Lotus Sutra, however, looks at the latter day as a time when the other Buddhist teachings, which were preached as expedients to lead people to awaken to the ultimate law or truth, but were not actually the ultimate law or truth, have lost their power to save people. It is a time when this ultimate law, which has always been the ultimate law, inherent in the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra, will prevail. It's not visible on the surface. It's inherently there. Only when the original teacher comes and reveals it does it become available for others. The Bodhisattvas of the earth are the disciples of that Buddha, that original teacher of that law. Do you understand? That's why we're disciples of Nichiren. All right? The Lotus Sutra teaches that this is the age in which the Bodhisattvas of the earth will successfully propagate the essential teaching, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, leading people away from misery and toward enlightenment. It also teaches that this world itself equates to the Pure Land. Therefore, the Lotus Sutra represented a message of hope and the gloomy spiritual atmosphere of the times known as the latter day of the law. Opinions as to the beginning, ending, and length of these periods vary. That's why I corrected myself. Depending on the source. The view of Nichiren Buddhism is that the latter day of the law represents the modern period, from around the time of Nichiren onward. Nichiren, as the votary of the Lotus Sutra, brought the essential teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the people of his day, and the SGI has spread this teaching throughout the world. Continuing on page 103. Bodhisattvas of the earth. quoting from the Gosho. Oh, no, no, this is from the Object of Devotion, quoting from Goshos, plural. At this time, this is from the Object of Devotion for Observing the Mind. At this time, the Bodhisattvas of the earth appear in the world for the first time solely to bring the medicine of the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo to the ignorant people of the latter day. So are these Bodhisattvas of the earth Bodhisattvas that have been practicing under Shakyamuni and came back and helped him out in the former and the middle day? No. No. For the first time. For the first time they appear. All right? At this time, the Bodhisattvas of the earth appear in the world for the first time, solely to bring the medicine of the 5 characters, solely to bring the medicine of the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. What is that? That's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That's the medicine of Myoho Renge-kyo to the ignorant people of the latter day. All right? Nichiren, second one, from the True Aspect of All Phenomena. Nichiren alone took the lead in carrying out the task of the Bodhisattvas of the earth. He may even be one of them. If Nichiren is to be counted among the Bodhisattvas of the earth, then so must his disciples, the lay supporters, not my other priest guys. Get it? There's no discrimination between layman, priest, laywoman, or nun. Yeah. There should be no, then this is from the True Aspect of All Phenomena as well. There should be no discrimination among those who propagate the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo in the latter day of the law, be they men or women. Now, at that time, what place on earth equated men and women as equal? No teaching that I'm aware of anywhere else on earth. Okay? Christianity, frankly, did not have it down like that. Okay? Because we're still talking about the Roman Catholic Church. We're talking about before America was discovered. All right? Were they not Bodhisattvas of the earth, they could not chant the Daimoku. That's all that matters. Their sex has nothing to do with it. At first, only Nichiren chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, but then only Nichiren chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. At first, only Nichiren chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. But then 2, 3, and 100 followed, chanting and teaching others. Propagation will unfold this way in the future as well. Does this not signify emerging from the earth? And then from the record of the orally transmitted teachings. The Bodhisattvas are possessors of the essential or original law. The original law is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And in saying so, Nichiren is saying, I am the original teacher. This Daimoku, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, is something that is without exception possessed by the Bodhisattvas who emerge from the earth, without exception. But it is not possessed by the Bodhisattvas of the theoretical teaching, those who were taught and converted by the Buddha in his transient status. From the substance of this original law is derived the function that is propagated as the practice of concentration and insight and is called the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. In effect, all the explanations given by great and ordinary teachers are directed toward the propagation of this function of the wonderful law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, then the leaders of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, are superior practices, boundless practices, pure practices, and firmly established practices. And this little chart shows you where they are on the Gohonzon. Do notice that A and B are both on the right side, and then C and D occur on the left side. And this gives you their position on the Gohonzon, the element in which they're represented based on the teaching of this Gosho, and then what the merits of each one is. Again, they're not separate from you in any way, shape, or form. None of them are separate from you. Okay? You will have at different times all aspects of this if you properly propagate the teaching. And now we're at the end, the study guide for this chapter, page 109. All right? And then we're going to start getting into some really heavy stuff starting on chapter 11. The Bodhisattvas of the earth, page 109. The Bodhisattvas of the earth depicted in the Lotus Sutra are people who in the defiled age of the latter day of the law now impart the light of hope to those who are suffering, our friends and neighbors that we try to teach and help chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. These Bodhisattvas tirelessly reach out to each individual with compassion and courage until fresh life force wells forth from their life. Disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha and practitioners of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law, through the practice of the mystic law, are determined to awaken all people to their inherent Buddhahood. Their belief in the greatness of all people allows them to overcome self-centeredness. Barriers such as race, culture, and nationality are not hindrances to the bodhisattvas of the earth. Barriers such as race, culture, and nationality are not hindrances to the bodhisattvas of the earth. Those who seek to practice the Lotus Sutra only for themselves are not bodhisattvas of the earth and will be unable to receive the heritage of the ultimate law. Now, what does that mean? Got to slow down and stop there and make you think. Sorry. That's saying a whole. That's a very powerful and correct statement. Absolutely true.
You have to do Kosamui for
Again, what this is really saying is those who seek to practice the Lotus Sutra only for themselves or to prove how great they are or without
For
any
their
real
own
concern for
benefits.
actual propagation. All right? Okay. Are not bodhisattvas of the earth and will be unable to receive the heritage of the ultimate law. What is the receiving of the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death?
is to be a Buddha in the next life.
Right. And how do you get to be a Buddha in your, but it's also be being a Buddha in this life, right? You will not get that heritage if you only practice for yourself. There's no jigyoketa in that. Practicing for oneself and for others is essential. Okay? Just doing it for the mind candy, for the rise, for knowing more than everybody else, doesn't get you shit. I can attest to that. Won't do you any good. You'll know a lot of stuff, big deal. When the crucial moment comes, the crucial moment will come. And you'll figure it out because you're undeterred. That's how you learn. That's how you know that what he's saying is true. It's not happy talk. Nichiren Daishonin alluded that he was fulfilling the mission of Bodhisattva Superior Practice as one of the 4 leaders of the Bodhisattvas of the earth. He states, whether or not Bodhisattva Superior Practices has appeared in this world, Nichiren has already made a start in propagating this teaching. Nichiren was the first person to declare and spread Nam-myoho Renge-kyo during the latter day of the law. The Bodhisattvas of the earth practiced the Lotus Sutra by chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and sharing that teaching with other people. So chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is really kind of an important element of your practice. It's actually much more important than knowing anything, frankly speaking. So if an emphasis is placed on knowing stuff rather than chanting Daimoku, it's incorrect based on everything Daisaku Ikeda is saying here. And that's why I bring it out, because it's not me saying it, it's Daisaku Ikeda saying it. So if you're supposed to be part of the SGI, I would assume that you would conform to Daisaku Ikeda's insight and enlightenment over your own.
Right.
All right? The Bodhisattvas of the earth practice the Lotus Sutra by chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and sharing that teaching with other people. This is an active practice and not a merely academic and intellectual exercise. This point is stressed by the fact that all 4 leaders of the Bodhisattvas of the earth have practices in their name. The benefits of the practices of the 4 leaders can be manifested in the life of every person who chants and spreads the mystic law. In the heritage of the ultimate law of life, Nichiren Daishonin likens these benefits to the functions of the 4 elements, each one a metaphor for a way to overcome delusion. And see, you go back to that chart on page 101 a minute ago. I showed you the 4 Bodhisattvas of the earth chart. Where is 101? Where's the chart he's talking about? There is no chart. See chart on page 101. I'm on page 101. Where is the chart?
Gohonzon chart.
Yeah, the Gohonzon chart is not on page 101. It's actually on page 105. Found a typo. World Tribune Press. What do you expect? No. Joke. The earth from which the Bodhisattvas emerge is, according to Tiantai, the world of truth, the depths of the Dharma nature innate in life. Because they emerge from this essential truth, the 9th consciousness, though they function as Bodhisattvas, they are Buddhas. Nichiren refers to them as possessors of the essential or original law. How could they not be Buddhas? the members of the SGI who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and spread the essential teaching, which is what Daisaku Ikeda is propagating here, are clearly bodhisattvas of the earth. Sorry I took so long. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you.
What?
Wait.
It'll be at least 2 weeks. It'll be at least 2 weeks. We'll see. Hopefully we can get back by
Yeah.
the third Wednesday, but we won't know until we get closer to that actual timeline.